This is Lindsay
and Kathy of Kindergarten Kiosk, a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Just like the show you're listening to right now.
The opinions expressed are those of individual hosts. Make sure you check out all the other great podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com. And now the learning begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Instant Relevance Podcast. The Instant Relevance Podcast is an educational podcast featuring the latest news and resources to make learning relevant for all students. Follow us on Twitter at InstantRel. I'm Denis Sheeran, author of Instant Relevance, using today's experiences to teach tomorrow's lessons, and Hacking Mathematics, 10 Problems That Need Solving. I'm a math teacher for 13 years and an administrator for 6, and I am excited to be podcasting.
I am Raymond Steinmetz, co-host of the Instant Relevance Podcast. I'm a K-8 math instructional coach from Rhode Island. I write and blog about a variety of topics related to education and parenting. You can find my work at www.blendedlearningmath.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at blended_math. Welcome to episode 8 of the Instant Relevance Podcast. I'm Raymond Steinmetz. Today we have a special bonus episode for our listeners. Dennis and I originally recorded this before our episode with Matt Miller, but we decided to release it as our first Instant Relevance mini moment. I hope everybody enjoys, and don't forget to rate and review our podcast on iTunes or wherever you're listening right now.
So I wanted to bring up something that I was introduced to a little while back. Actually, a couple years ago at a summer workshop I went to called Twitter Math Camp. And if you've never heard of Twitter Math Camp, it's because it's not really hugely publicized by companies or sponsored by anybody out there. It is literally just math teachers who get together and decide, hey, we're going to meet here at this place for these 3 days, and we're going to talk about math teaching. You interested in standards-based grading? We'll talk about that. You interested in project-based learning? We'll talk about that. Let's get together and work together. And they travel around the country. So last year it was in Ohio, and next year it'll be somewhere on the West Coast, and then it's going to go back to Central and East and Central and West, like that pattern. But a gentleman there named Henry Picciotto started talking about something he does, and it came back to my attention last year as I was writing a chapter of my book Hacking Mathematics for the Hack Learning series, and I brought it in there as a way to reinvent your homework structure in your classroom. And it is this idea called lagging homework. And I particularly love lagging homework, and I see how it has been super effective in my district with some teachers as well as we're trying it out. And the gist of it is this: you never give homework today on what you taught today. You just don't give homework on today's teaching anymore. The key to that shift is that 15 minutes at the beginning of class going over homework anymore. Instead, I spend 15 minutes at the end of class or somewhere in my class actively practicing with feedback from me, their coach, or from each other, or from whatever our materials are supplied, to go back and forth to give them the reinforcement that they need. And it is a super effective way to shift your homework policy to emphasize student learning and time dwelling on a subject and letting that really mull over a longer period of time, and to get into your classroom and to be that coach who can give them that active feedback. Like a soccer coach never sends his kids out on the field and says, hey kids, glad you're here, now learn soccer, I'm going home.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I think that a lot of teachers kind of expect homework to be this guided practice, or at least they use homework in the guided practice phase of learning. And really, it should be solidifying kind of after you've already learned something, solidifying, getting that extra practice, really building that retention. Because really what we're doing if we give homework on something we just learned that day is we're really leaving students alone. Because I think that, first of all, the assumption that parents are going to help students with homework is, one, who knows if a parent's going to be around? And two, who knows if the parent is going to have a full understanding of all K-8 curriculum that their child might have homework on. I think that it's a huge...
They all do. Every one of them.
Yeah, I mean, every single person who is a parent is also a teacher. So, I'm pretty sure...
Right, that's been my experience.
Yeah. Even though there is a lot of overlap in that Venn diagram, I found.
Right.
Yeah, but when we give an assignment, we are leaving students alone. That's why, we should really look, if we are going to be giving practice, give it in kind of a buddy practice way. There's a couple gamification products that we can use. I was talking to a teacher recently who was just going to start giving his homework in Prodigy. He just said, kids, go home and play 20 minutes of Prodigy a night. And, he's like the Wizard of Oz in the back behind the curtain, making sure that they get the math problems that he wants them to get. But those kids just think that they're playing a math video game for 20 minutes at home, and he's assessing their knowledge. So, giving some sort of practice like either that or IXL that gives them at least the feedback of whether they are correct or not, and hopefully some sort of extended feedback about why they were wrong. If you give that for homework rather than, a sheet of paper and promises to be able to find help if you need it on your own, those are two very different things. And I think that, giving the students the support that they need, or at least some support, without them being completely lost or having to ask an adult, is at least a step in the right direction. I certainly like this model that you said your friend came up with the lagging homework, kind of how it spirals and really brings up those previous things that you learned and kind of goes back. So I like that your friend is changing the purpose of homework even, because, like I said, a lot of teachers really use it as some sort of extra practice, kind of guided practice, kind of formative assessment. I think a lot of teachers don't really know exactly what they're expecting out of homework when they assign it. I think that they just really do it because they have to, and then they think that the importance of homework should take up time in their classroom when it could be spent doing more of that guided practice that we expect out of it.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the big ideas to remember here. You've got to think about the purpose for any assignment you do or anything we do in class. And if the purpose is, well, I've always just done it, or it's to tell the parents what the kids are doing in class, then just send them a note and say, this is what we did in class. So you don't have to send homework home so they can struggle and cry together over it.
Yeah, take a picture, send it home.
Yeah, it's tough when the anxiety reaches that height. So I actually created a product as well on my website, and I wrote a blog about it, and it can be found at DenisSheeran.com/homework. And it is a guide for parents on how you can help your kids with math homework. And really, long story short, we gave this out at Back to School Night. It's just a lot of questions. So when your kid is struggling, it tells the parent, don't do it for them. Ask them, how do you think you should start this? Or can you draw a picture that can help you? Or what don't you understand about this problem? Or if they're done with the problem, parents don't have to say, let me check it for you. They can say, are you sure you answered it? Or can you convince me that your answer makes sense? And if they become expert questioners with a guide like this, then they can help their kid learn through homework in an effective way without having to become a math teacher to do it. And that's something that I'm happy to share and spread wide, because I think it's going to be a helpful resource to parents to know that they don't have to know this math to be a helper with math homework. And those questions translate over to other subject areas too.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll be excited to put that in the episode notes. I would also like to mention that I've written a little bit about homework as well. I wrote an eSchoolNews article just about my own kind of struggle to teach homework as a classroom teacher. And then I also wrote a piece about helping with math homework for fatherly women. So if you want to check out those pieces on my website, www.math.com, you should be able to find them there.